This podcast is meant for general health information and is not meant to override any medical advice. All questions will be screened and not contain any personal information. If you want a private consultation, contact us via positivechoice.org or you can contact your provider directly. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Positive Choice Wellness Podcast. I'm Anneliese. I'm an exercise physiologist and nutritionist here.
And my name's Melanie. I'm also an exercise physiologist and nutritionist.
And today we have a very special guest, Lizzy.
Hi, it's Lizzy Kemp. Thank you. Super excited to be here today. I also am an exercise physiologist.
Yes, she's one of the trifecta here. And just so you guys know, like Lizzy is not just an exercise physiologist and fitness instructor extraordinaire here. She is also a master race walker.
Yeah, right. I'm a race walker. The wiggle walking. Funny walk.
The wiggle walking. And so she set a record for 100 miles, which earned her a spot on the national race walking team qualifying for the 1992 Olympic trials. 10K race walk.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. Going to the Olympic trials in New Orleans, 100 degrees, 100% humidity. You just go as fast as you can.
Chew on the air while you're at it.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. A long time ago.
And now you put those skills to good use because you are a walking coach with Team in Training and founder and coach of Walk to Win.
Correct. So I coached with Team in Training, in the 90s. And then in 2000, I started my own group, Walk to Win. And I've helped a lot of people get going with their walking, either progressing their fitness routine or getting them started. It's great exercise.
So tell us a little bit more about that, because I think we all recommend everybody should be walking, right?
Absolutely.
Walking is the movement of longevity.
And it's like the easiest one to do for most people.
Right,
Yeah.
But people tend to put it in the category of easy, and it doesn't have to be, right, Lizzy?
Yeah, absolutely. Walking's functional. We have to get from here to there. It's fantastic for weight loss, burns lots of calories. But once you are doing some walking and you've built up some endurance and you're looking to make the activity more challenging, race walking technique is one way that you can do that. Walking is so easy to just get started. All you need is a pair of shoes and you can get going. With race walking, there's a little bit of technique involved, so I'd love to share a couple of tips on that.
I'm curious to hear it.
All right. Well, with regular fitness walking, there's sort of a cap on how quickly you can go, and it's right around that 14, 15-minute mile. And efficiency-wise, we start breaking into a run. If we put someone on a treadmill and had them just walking, and you change the pace and brought the speed up, right around a 15-minute mile, people would break into a run. A walker wouldn't be able to keep up with the technique with just regular fitness walking. And with some race walking technique tips, you use your whole body to walk. You're recruiting more muscle groups, more of your body, your upper body, your hip. And now you're able to continue walking form at higher paces. Most race walkers are walking, say, a 13-minute mile, a 12-minute mile, on into the, elite walkers are into the sub 8-minute miles, but it's still low impact. And that's the thing with walking, is that low impact, fewer injuries, just a healthier thing for your body.
I had no idea that race walkers got that fast.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, like, man, I average a 12-minute mile when I run, and oh my goodness, they would be just walking next to me like, ha, slacker, and they'd walk past.
Right, it is really quick. But the thing is with race walking technique, you can use the technique and get your whole body working in your walk rather than just your legs of fitness walking. And you don't have to go that fast. Your own body, your own fitness will limit how quickly you go. And certainly a 15-minute mile is a great place to start, and you'll get faster as you get more efficient.
That's fantastic. So how would someone start? Gosh,
I hope you all do get started, but really start with regular walking and be consistent with it. Going out, most days. Start with 3 days a week for 10 minutes, and then add in a fourth day of 10 minutes, and start increasing the length of time that you're walking. And when you're able to walk, say, for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, then it's time to challenge yourself with recruiting more muscle groups, getting more of the cardiovascular challenge of your heart rate up, and then learning some technique. So I can share some ideas with you today on what you might be able to think about when you're walking.
We just want to open up your brain and learn everything.
Okay. Well, let's start with the feet. So with regular walking, walkers land flat-footed. And a race walker strikes on the heel and they roll to their toe. So there's a lot of pulling and pushing that happens with the race walker. A lot of momentum with striking on the heel, rolling, and pushing off the toe. So that's a great place to start. The second place, moving up the body, is the knees. A race walker straightens their leg as they extend out and reach into that heel. So as you reach out for that heel, your leg's extended, and then you roll through your toe. A fitness walker has more of a hiking gait, so their knees are soft and they're landing flat-footed. So that would be a way to think about the stride, is straightening out your leg. Now, that's tough to do if you overstride. If you're taking a really big, long stride, you have more of a hiker gait where your knees are soft. So the race walker actually has a really short stride to keep their legs straight, but then they rotate through the hip. And that is your magic. That right there is your magic. When you rotate with your hips and glide forward with your hips, so your stride begins with your hip rather than with your heel on the ground, you're lengthening your stride.
Which makes a lot of sense because the glutes are so powerful. So you're wanting to dig down into that heel where your glute is strong, not overextended.
Bingo. You are so right, Anneliese, because if you look at your body, your biggest, strongest, most powerful muscle is not your little thighs. It's your glutes.
It's the booty.
The booty. So when you are rotating with your hip and using your whole body to walk, you're able to recruit those glute muscles, the hamstring, and use those big, powerful muscles.
And then that's where that kind of, what we opened with, that kind of funky walk comes from, that wobble.
The wiggle walk.
The wiggle walk.
Yeah. The wiggle walk. We get teased all the time for that.
I learned about it from a popular TV show long ago where I watched it, where there was a race walking episode. And if anyone's seen the show, they'll know.
It's probably a Roger Dangerfield one or something. Walk this way.
It was Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the
Hal
Middle,
got
of
into
course.
race walking, and he was doing the wiggly hip thing, and I was like, and he had that helmet with the pointy end.
I've seen it.
What is this nonsense?
Yep. We do get teased for sure. I've had people yell out the window, do you want some fries with that shake?
Is that so?
Yeah. You just keep going, tune it out. So moving on up the body, when you think of posture, quite often you see runners or striders piking at the waist and leaning forward. Sort of, my head's a here, my butt's a coming. They're way out in front of their legs. And that's hard on the low back. It's like carrying a heavy sack of groceries out in front of you. And the thing with race walking is you have to be straight up and down. Your head, your ears are over your shoulders, over your hips, over your knees. So your spine is in line, and you're forced to have really straight, erect posture and move as one unit, as opposed to piking at the waist and dragging your legs behind you.
Kind of like you're falling forward a little bit.
Right, a little slight forward lean, absolutely. Yeah. But from the ankles, not the waist.
Yeah.
And do you feel like a lot of people, when you're training them into doing race walking, does this tend to feel more natural to them, or is this something that people have to think about and work on for a little while?
You have to think about it and work on it for a little while. The way I teach it, I break it down with just starting regular walking. And I say, just walk across the parking lot. But you want to have big, long arms at your side. And when you have a big, long arm at your side, your hips start swinging around because your legs have to meet this nice long stride. So I would say the worst thing you can do, or one thing that can really slow down your learning of race walking, is to bend the arms at 90 degrees. And that's the final product. The final product is arms at your side, bent at 90 degrees, pumping. But that's when you're really getting accomplished and moving quickly, that your arms would break at the elbow. To learn it, you're better off with long arms at your side, and then your hips want to roll and come around, and you have a very long stride from the hips doing the work.
Okay.
It feels like a lot to think about.
Yeah, you know what, it is. It is kind of like patting your tummy and chewing gum or whatever, but top of your head.
While she's trying to attempt the patting the belly, rubbing the head.
I think it's patting the head and rubbing the
stomach. And if I
stomach.
just had some gum and I could coordinate all that.
And walk backwards while singing.
Yes, all that.
Yeah.
But, a great way to start is just breaking it down like I just did. Long arms, reaching with the hip for the stride, and then go down to your feet and see if you can strike heel to toe. It's heel to toe walking. And then maybe shorten up your stride a little bit so that you can get the legs straight.
I like that. I think that seems very doable.
Yeah.
And then check the posture. Is the spine in line? Ear over shoulder over hip.
It's just so interesting because I wouldn't have thought that, because I'm very tall, so I would immediately go to long stride to lengthen out that stride. But what I was thinking about when you were mentioning the technique, I was like, how do I get through crowds? When I was walking through crowds, I hate crowds. I power walk through crowds, but I realize now I'm not power walking and race walking because I'm doing exactly what you're saying. There's not enough space to step my legs far enough, so I do short little strides. I get really tall, and I'm like, yeah, let's get through the crowd.
Yeah, and you roll with your hip. Yeah. But gosh, when you start, and a good visual is like kids at a swimming pool, and they're running around the square deck, the square pool, to get back in line with the diving board, and the lifeguard yells, "Walk, don't run, slow down, no running on the deck." And all the kids immediately start doing the hip wiggle, race walk, heel and toe technique. So it is sort of natural.
Lizzy. I used to lifeguard. I lifeguarded since I was 16 years old until I was 24, and I knew exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking
and then
about.
they kind of do this little penguin waddle thing.
Yeah,
and it's race walking. Because
Yeah.
they're like, well, I'm not running. Can't catch me.
Yeah.
They think they're clever. They're not.
But, in terms of like a full body workout, your abs are working, your glutes are working, your upper body's working as you start bringing in that bent arm, pumping, and the sky's the limit. Your fitness, your cardiovascular fitness is going to limit how fast you can go, not the biomechanics of your legs not turning over. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is fascinating. So how long do people, so if you are race walking, like what's a typical workout time?
It's similar to what a jogger or a fitness walker would do. 30 minutes is plenty of time to get some training in. Other walkers might do an hour if they're training for, say, a 10K or a half marathon.
Interesting. And then when you're walking, would you recommend starting off like flat, or would you recommend jumping right into hills? Like,
That is such a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melanie. So with race walking, actual race walk events are always on a flat course.
Okay.
Because there are actually 2 rules. Now that we know how to do it, we're going to complicate it. There are 2 rules of race walking. One is that you keep 1 foot on the ground at all times. So 1 foot has to be in contact with the ground. Otherwise, you're flying through the air.
Well, then
leaping.
it's jogging, right?
It's jogging,
Yeah.
right. The other rule is that you have to straighten the supporting leg as it passes under the body. And that rule has been changed and rewritten a little bit because it's tricky. As the walkers have gotten faster and faster, it gets harder and harder to judge, but the judging is with the human eye. But that also keeps race walking or walking separate from running, those 2 rules. And those rules can be performed. You can walk correctly, maintain legal technique on flat terrain, but on a hilly terrain, it gets harder. On a hill, your knees just want to bend. So in training, absolutely. If you have a hilly neighborhood, you can do your race walking technique up and down hills, but in a competition, it's on a flat terrain typically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you recommend hills for training? Would that be a recommendation, or would you say stick with the flats?
Flats are great for learning, and then you can start doing some rolling hills. A really steep hill, you're gonna bend your knee and just hike and
San
power
Francisco.
up it.
Walking up and you're
yeah.
horizontal and you're trying to walk up that
Golden
hill with
Gate Park.
stairs.
If you're in San Francisco, hook up with the Golden Gate Park race walkers.
That was pretty flat.
Yeah.
And you get a good
yeah.
view of the ocean once you get to the end of the park, so that's even better.
Right. You know what I do want to mention is that most people race walk for fitness. They don't compete. A very few small group does compete. And many of those competitors are actually seniors. They like to compete as masters or in senior Olympic events. And, the young kids, they're running. They don't want to race walk. They're typically running. It would be nice if we could get more young college kids into the sport of race walking to, have a more competitive Olympic team. But it's usually the master athletes, former runners that have gotten injured, have physical limitations where the impact is going to hurt them. They come into race walking because they can still get that endorphin high. They can be out training in beautiful San Diego, getting their heart rate up. Whereas with fitness walking, they're not getting their heart rate up. And with running, their knees and hips are hurting. So race walking is a really nice middle ground for those former athletes.
Well, speaking of that, what kind of injuries typically come along with this sport?
That's a great question, Anneliese. Anytime that we do too much of something, it's called an overuse injury. And it's that repetitive motion. So you can have that typing on your computer, an overuse injury. So too much training, too much, too fast, too soon can absolutely lead to injuries, whether it's fitness walking or running. So progression is so important, starting off slow and listening to your body. If something's hurting at mile 2, it's not going to feel better at mile 4.
Yes.
The injuries that are common for whether it's walking or race walking, they kind of are similar. With walking, remember, we spend more time with our feet on the ground. A runner is leaping and flying and pushing off the ground. With walking, you have 1 foot in the ground at all times. You are pulling, pushing. So most of the race walking injuries seem to be in the feet. Think plantar fasciitis. Okay? And that is totally preventable if you listen to your body when it flares up and take some rest. Also, having shoes with good arch support and doing lots of calf stretching can reduce the plantar fasciitis. That's burning and pain through the arch.
Okay.
So walkers, runners, race walkers, any hikers, anyone can, have problems with plantar fasciitis. The muscle soreness that's unique to race walkers is up the front of the shin, and it's the anterior tibialis muscle. It starts down at the toe and inserts up by the knee, off to the side, and it's that muscle that runs down the front of your shin. So I invite you to cross your legs and point your toe up towards your nose, where you're flexing and extending it. And you will see the anterior tibialis muscle working. You could put your hand on it and feel it. It's the front of your shin.
Okay.
And that's an area that starts burning with the technique of the straight leg, heel, and toe. Just lifting your toe towards your nose, you're probably feeling some burning in that shin now. So even a very fit runner will get sore there because they don't use that muscle really with any other sport other than race walking and rowing.
So would it kind of feel like shin splints almost, except it's not a shin splint?
Right.
Okay.
So a shin splint is an impact injury that runners and aerobic dancers get.
Yes.
This will go away. The burning will stop the minute you stop and take a break.
Interesting.
So it's basically just training
Stretching.
an underused muscle.
Right.
What about the hip flexors? Because I'm curious about that. Because if you're doing the elongation of the hip and using your glutes so much, would you expect them to get soreness through the hips too? Is that something you commonly
that's
see?
a great point. We're all sitting right now. We're sitting and our hip flexors are shortened. Just standing up straight, your hip flexors are stretched. And then when you go and take a long stride and you have one heel out in front and the other toe pushing behind you, your hips are rotated and open and your hip flexors are stretched. So that's an area that is good to stop and stretch. Start walking, run through some drills with the long arms, the open hips, the heel and toe. Stop, do some hip flexor stretches once you get your body temperature up, and you should be fine.
All right.
And listen to your body.
Yes.
Yep, listen to your body.
Especially if you are starting something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm I understand the biomechanics of it. It's just interesting to hear it kind of all put together and what you would actually experience during the activity, especially with the shins part of that. Because, I am very familiar with shin splints. Those are wonderful. So that's why I was asking the question about the shin splints and stuff, and then the hips.
Yeah, it is painful.
Because I just think of the commonly used muscles that you would typically see. You don't see anything with like the inside and outside of the knee at all. That's not something you typically
not
see?
so much.
Okay.
So back to the shin splints. That's an injury that will respond with ice and rest. Whereas the anterior tibialis soreness of race walking from pointing the toe towards the nose and the quick steps, that is muscle soreness,
So would
not
you
an
say-
injury. It's muscle soreness as opposed to an injury.
So would you say then, for example, because I've experienced this in the past, and I'm sure many people listening may have experienced this too. Let's say back in the day, pre-pandemic, you're at Disneyland, for example, and you're walking around and you feel like a shin splint the next day. Your shins are so sore. So would that be a shin splint, or would that be?
That would be a shin splint.
Okay.
The anterior tibialis soreness is like a burning only while you're walking and doing healing toe. Once you stop, it completely goes away.
Okay.
It pointing the toe towards the nose makes it burn. Sitting in a chair makes it stop.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned shoes.
Oh yeah.
So can we touch base? Like, can I go out in my running shoes, or should I look for different things?
That's a great question too. Okay, so with shoes, typically we walk in a running shoe, like a mesh top, lightweight running shoe. But race walkers like a low profile where you sit low to the ground. So for example, with running, you're leaping and flying through the air and you have impact. So if I'm going to buy a running shoe, or a marathon shoe, I want a marshmallow under my feet. I want a big, thick, soft, something that's going to absorb shock, like a pillow. So like those shoes called hookahs right now are really popular. They're a really big, dense, built up heel. And those are popular with running for the cushioning. But with race walking, we're low to the ground. We want to get our heel on the ground as quickly as possible. So a low profile. What you'd want to look for is a low profile running shoe. Sometimes it's called a racing flat or a cross-country shoe. And you don't want a lot of gripper and claw underneath it, like a trail shoe would not be advisable. You want a smooth bottom for going on like concrete or
Like less surface area
street
under
terrain.
the shoe.
Right, low heel.
And are those also the same as the zero drop shoes?
Right, so something like that is popular, the zero drop with the walkers. I wouldn't recommend a minimalist shoe. You know, those were really popular for a while, where it was like a slipper, and you could just fold it and taco that shoe in half. And that's not enough arch support. You'll end up with some plantar fasciitis. Typically, we want to have some support through the arch, but flexible up in the toes.
And then speaking of that, when you're talking about the plantar fasciitis, my mind went to, okay, is there strength training to go along with the race walking that is specific? I'm thinking like balance, maybe.
I like this question.
Yeah.
Strength training. Let's go.
Yeah. Melanie loves it. Her brain's already like, okay, what torture can I do to the race walkers that come in? All right. So absolutely, you can strengthen that shin and get it in shape faster. One thing is spelling the alphabet with your foot. So you can just cross your leg and spell A, B, C in cursive, where you're getting a lot of ankle flexibility and pointing and flexing, working that shin muscle. So spelling the alphabet with both feet can be helpful. Another is to stand or sit, feet flat on the ground, and toe tap, and have one foot toe tapping.
I make my patients do that a lot. The ones who have walking issues, I always make them do the toe taps, and that's their favorite. Wink, wink.
Yeah, but you know that ankle flexibility and spelling with the alphabet is super important for fall prevention too. All of our elderly women clients that come in because they've fallen and they want help with balance, and we're working with them on balance, we should also be working with them on quadricep strength, leg strength, and that's the get-ups in and out of a chair, sit, stand squats, and then the ankle flexibility so that you can lift your toe up and over a curb or over a carpet and not trip.
I think the alphabet with the toe is good for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a fabulous rehab move. It's a fabulous
Yeah,
ankle
why keep it
mobility.
to just the kindergartners doing the ABCs?
Yeah, you sit there while you're watching TV at night, do your ABCs with both of your feet. It
Yeah.
takes a few seconds. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, the length of a commercial. Do your ABCs. Go ahead. Try
Okay.
it.
So I've got another thing I thought about with someone starting walking. I talked about long arms at your side. If you walk with long arms at your side, like a strider or a power walker, to train your hips to open. Remember, that's a drill, an exercise to get the hips to open up and rotate and get a long stride from your hips rather than your knees or legs. But sometimes your fingers will swell. You'll get numbness and fat fingers, and that's from the centrifugal forces of the blood going down into your fingertips. And it's just annoying to have like that pins and needles feeling. So what you can do is close your hands into not a tight fist, but just curl your fingers and a slight bend in your elbow. And now you won't have that numbness and swelling in the fingers so much.
This is all fascinating.
Now, would you also recommend, since a lot of it is glute action, doing some sort of glute strengthening exercises too?
You know, any strength training program that a runner or jogger or just general strength would be helpful so that you have more range of motion and more power. Hamstring is an area that definitely, and the quadriceps, but especially the hamstring area, being able to strengthen that area, because when you strike on the heel, you're pulling with that straight leg, and that's hamstring.
So a follow-up question that I'll ask is, so now that you got the strengthening down, are there specific stretches that you would recommend too? Because I know you mentioned like the point your foot, flex your foot thing. Are there any other stretches that
Well,
you
the
can
hip
incorporate?
flexor stretch is
Yeah.
a big one. A hamstring stretch where you just, extend your heel and lean forward, stretching the muscle in the back of your upper leg. That hamstring stretch is good. and just general upper body strength so that you can pump your arms for an hour without getting fatigued through the upper body. I remember one of my very first race walking races, I was so sore through my upper back and abs, like Charlie Horse sore. And I couldn't understand it. Like I just walked a half marathon and my legs did the work. Why is my upper body so sore? But through the years, I've realized how great it is for your abs and basically your core, which is your lower back and your abs, because you have this twisting of the hips around the spine or shoulders. And to twist those hips, you're contracting your abs, your obliques at a diagonal, pulling those hips around. So lots of great core work. It's really a full body workout. I'm also a swimmer, and I think of swimming and race walking both as being these full body, long, extended. You want to just be long and stretched out, and it's a graceful, technique-oriented sport. I don't think of race walking as hammering or pressing. It's more of a dance.
I love that.
And they're both low impact.
Mm-hmm.
So
full body, low impact. It's a dance with your body.
Love it.
That's fabulous. So Lizzy,
Mm-hmm.
we know we have limited like one-on-one appointments here, but are you running anything where if someone is like, I really want to get started with this, I would love to talk to Lizzy?
Specifically.
They should call Positive Choice and ask for Lizzy.
Okay.
And I could put them on the treadmill. Now we have COVID, so they've got to wear a mask. Or we could do it outside in the parking lot here at Garfield, and I can show them some technique tips. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Lovely.
So we'll put Lizzy's contact information down at the bottom. So if you wanna get started and you feel like you need a little bit of extra help, we are here for you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, everybody get out and walk. Just begin. If you're already walking and you want more of a challenge, try the race walking and see beautiful San Diego. It's a fun way to get out and stay fit.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lizzy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I feel completely enlightened. I mean, this was like a whole aspect of sport that I feel like I know nothing about. So this was very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take Melanie and Anneliese up on the challenge. I'm going to take them out to a top deck of the parking garage here and run them through a little race walking clinic. Okay.
Oh, no. I'm worried. Now I'm worried.
I won't use a stopwatch on you. It's just for fun.
Okay. I'm up for it. All right, Lizzy. Well, hopefully you'll come back and see us again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to come back and do another podcast topic or stick with the race walking.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, you guys. And we'll see you, not see you, but, pretend
You can
you're there.
hear us eventually.
Next time.
Until next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.